So have you ever wondered why budgeting is so boring? It's so tedious. Like everyone believes that to budget is one of the most difficult things you could do. And how do you manage your finances better if you do not budget? Right? Especially if you're someone that do not love numbers and you want to budget, it becomes a very boring activity, it becomes a very tedious activity. But I want you to know it doesn't have to look like that. It doesn't have to always look like, oh, budgeting is so tedious. Today I need to do my budgeting, and it's as if the whole world is crashing on me. So I'm going to be giving you the reasons why you believe budgeting is tedious. And also, I will give you steps in which you can do your budgeting in a more friendly way, in a more friendly atmosphere. That each time you want to budget, you will just be smiling. So let's go into it. Firstly, why do we need to budget, right? So in this world where finances, we do not talk about finances. Finances are not included in our educational part. How do we learn about our finances? It's only how can you manage your money properly if you do not if you do not budget the money. How do you know where all the money you earn, where you're spending it on, if you do not properly account for it? And that is where budgeting comes into play. Because with budgeting, you'll be able to know, okay, I've earned 50,000 this month and I've spent 30,000 on this activity. I've spent 30 to 20,000 on the following things. And that is why budgeting is good. If you want to get out of debt, you need to be able to plan. If you want to be financially free, you need to be able to plan. And budgeting is one of the tools in which you use in planning. Now, budgeting is just you knowing, okay, this is my income and this is my expense and this is what I have as surplus. That's just budgeting in a layman's language. I have $50,000 as income. My expense for this month is $40,000 and I have $10,000 as surplus. Now, but budgeting, because we believe that budgeting, we need to track all the cents, all the dollars, all the amount we spend on each things, it becomes so boring. So that's one of the reasons budgeting is boring. Like, you mean I have to track the $4 I spend on coffee? What? Like, if I go to Tim Hortons today, I have to come back home and put $4 on my business, on my app, that I've already spent $4 on coffee today. So if you consider all this, it becomes boring for you. If you consider that the fact that you need to track the $2 you spent on donation, the $10 you spent on winners, on targets, it becomes very difficult for you because you have the feelings that you have to track all your expense. You have to track all the cents, all the dollars you spend. It becomes boring, right? And the other reason why budgeting seems to be boring and tedious, it's because you believe that, why do I need to know where all my money is going? Like, your expense is even more than your income, so it becomes so difficult for you. Like, for instance, you earn $30,000 and your expense for the month, at the end of the month, is like 1.5, which is about $45,000. So it becomes boring for you. It becomes tedious because you have to begin to imagine the fact that, oh, the amount I'm even earning, it's not commensurate with what I'm spending, right? So it becomes boring. It becomes tedious. Another reason why budgeting is tedious and boring is because you believe that all the money I'm spending on, as in, you've not been able to classify your needs and your wants. You've not been able to separate them. Like, you just swipe your card when you go into the store. You've not really thought about it. Is this a need? Is this a want? Right? You've not been able to classify them. So these are some of the reasons why budgeting is so tedious and it's so difficult for you to budget. So how do you now do budgeting? The first thing, as in, how do you do budgeting in such a way that it becomes friendly for you? It becomes less tedious, it becomes less boring for you. The first thing you need to come to is you need to recognize that you need to recognize that you need to take control of your finances. Like, I am not coming to save you. Likewise, you're not coming to save me. But once you have the understanding that I need to take control of my finances, you've come to the mindset, you now have the mindset that, okay, I'm not just earning this money just to swipe my card at the store. I'm not just earning this money just to make sure I pay all my bills. I need to be financially independent. And when you say financially independent, it doesn't mean you have millions in the bank, but at least you're sure that, okay, I earned 30,000 this month and I know where I spent my $30,000 on, right? So you need to come to that awareness. You need to have the mindset of the fact that I need to take control of my finances. That is the first turning point. Once you have that mindset that I need to take control of my finances and I need to take control now, it is not tomorrow. That no one is coming to save me. Like, the government is not coming to save you. The government will enjoy the fact that you go to the store to swipe your card. You know the reason? The reason is because you will pay taxes. And that is why the government would want you to always swipe your card, right? And the government knows you already paid your taxes on your income. But going to the store to swipe your card again means that you're paying extra taxes. You're either paying the GST or the PST, right? So, but when you come to the realization that I need to take control of my finances, there's an awareness. There's a change in your mindset to say, even if I earn $10,000, how do I spend this $10,000? It becomes an awareness, a change in mindset. That's the first step in which you take. Now, the second step in which you take is, I'm going to tell you the steps in which you can do your budgeting in a more friendly way, less tedious way. And from this point, you can start doing your budget this way, at least to the time you become very familiar, very relaxed, and you can continue doing your budget in the more traditional way, which is by you using either an app, either you use your spreadsheets, depending on the method that suits you best. So in budgeting, I'm going to classify budgeting into 3 places. How do you do your budget? Number 1 is, I want you to take a piece of paper, like a clean sheet and a pen, and write out everything you spend money on. I mean everything. I don't need you to put a price. Just write it out. Okay, I spend money on my rent, on my mortgage. I spend money on my car loan or car lease. I spend money on my student loan. I spend money on groceries. I spend money on utilities. I spend money on my phone bills. I spend money on eat out in the restaurant. I spend money when I go to get a cup of coffee. Just write it out. And the best way in which you can do this is, you can go into your banking app, right? To say, okay, because there are certain things that you might not know you actually spend money on. Just like I said, you just get to the store. Oh, I just love this blue suit, right? And I swipe my card. I swipe my card, right? So once you are able to pick all these things, write them out. Like, this is what an average, you can check an average of 3 months, an average of 6 months. Like I said, no one is coming to help you. So if you do not do it, definitely Sifawu will not come to do it for you. But if you take the step, I can assure you that in the next 3 months, 6 months, you're going to see a turnaround, right? So write out everything on the sheet. When you're done writing, the next thing I want you to do is, I want you to classify all these things you've written. And the classification you're going to give to them is 3. Number 1, you're going to write fixed. Fixed means I must pay it. It's a bill that I cannot afford to carry over to the next month. And what are some of the fixed bills we have? We have like your rent, your mortgage. My darling, if you do not pay your rent or your mortgage, your landlord or your bank is coming to foreclose your house, right? So it's something you must do. So you put fixed. Your car loan, you put fixed. Your student loan, you put fixed. Anything that you know that this is something that it is what I must do. If I do not do it, number 1, is going to stop my credit will be reduced. Number 2, I may become homeless. Number 2, there's no peace. Like, you might not be able to sleep, right? So once you're able to do that, you've been able to put all your your items, you've been able to classify the fixed ones. Now, the next thing I want you to classify is, I want you to classify the ones that fall under utility. Now, when I say utility, I mean the bills that go up, like the prices increase depending on your usage, right? So let's take hydro for instance. Your hydro will keep increasing depending on your usage. So if you want to minimize your bill for hydro, what do? You reduce the amount of bulbs that are on, you reduce the amount of energy you're consuming. Like in the winter, the places you're not in, you can decide to switch off the heater just to reduce your bill. You decide this bill is not fixed, right? It's either increases or decreases depending on your usage. And that is inclusive of your phone bill as well. Like I can decide to make international call on my phone, right? The month I do international call on my phone, definitely my bills will increase or than the months I do not do international call on my phone. So these are the bills I wanted to classify as utility. So we've been able to classify two bills. We've been able to classify the fixed bills, which are the bills that it is a must that I must pick that bill that month. The second one is the utility, which is according to my consumption, this bill would go up, right? And this also, your groceries can fall into this category, because if you decide, oh, I want to eat 3 times a day, it's going to be different from the months you decide, oh, I want to do 1 time a day or 2 times a day, right? So your groceries will fall under the utility as well. And the final classification will be your cash will be your cash bills. So what I mean by cash bills is, I want to do this because I have extra cash, right? I want to do this because I have extra cash. That is your cash bills. So like, I want to eat out today because, oh, I feel I have this extra $30 I can use on the restaurant. That will be your cash bill. So the day your cash bills finish, that means you're no longer allowed to dip money into your utility or your fixed bills. Now, if you've been able to classify your bills into these 3 categories, like you've been able to classify your fixed bill, your utility bill, and your cash bill. Now, the next thing I want you to do is now put a figure to them. So, you know, we've been going from stages now. The first thing is for us to write everything down. Like, do not put an amount to it, because if you put an amount to it, at the very first time you're writing it down, you're going to be stuck. You're going to feel, wow, this is so overwhelming. Do you mean I spend this on restaurants? Do you mean I spend, and at that point, there's tendency for you to stop writing. That's why I said don't put cash to it in the first place. So just write it out. The second one, categorize them, classify these bills. You've been able to classify them into fixed, utility, and cash. Now, the next thing I want you to do now is now put a price to it. What do you pay for your rent? What do you pay for your mortgage? What do you pay on your car loan? Right? Because one of the reasons why we also feel budgeting is boring is because we believe with budgeting, I need to start cutting all my lifestyle. I don't need to go to restaurant again. I don't need to go to the store to get a cup of coffee, because now I'm on budget. So because of that thing, our psychology begins to imagine, oh, do you think I can even survive without taking a cup of coffee a day? Do you understand? So that is one of the reasons why budgeting is tedious, it's boring. So now put a catch to all the bills you've written out. Now, for your fixed bills, ordinarily the rule of budgeting says it should be about 75%, which means if you earn any amount you earn, 75% should go to your bills. Bills means either fixed, cash, or utility. So for your fixed bills, if your fixed bills is taking 75% of your total income, then you see, because these are fixed bills, they are the bills that you cannot afford not to pick. Then you now see that the problem is not actually you budgeting. The problem is you need to get an extra income to be able to live a well-deserved life. So if you cut, let's say you say, oh, because my fixed bills is 75% of your income already. That's maybe your rent, your car loan, your student loan, maybe sending money back home might be fixed for some. Like me, it's fixed. Like I have to send money back home every month. So what is your fixed? What is the percentage? Now fixed, put the price to the fixed, put the price to the utility, and put a price to your cash. When you're done with this set of three things, now what chunk is it taking away from your income? What chunk is it taking away from your income? So if you have your fixed taking about maybe 30% or 40%, then you might be good, right? Then you have your utility taking a portion as well. Then now coming to your cash. When you're done with these three, the next thing you do is open a separate account for those three things. I know in this part of the world, you say, okay, why? I know they might charge me for monthly charges, comes with a maybe checking account. But it helps you. It helps you because, like I said, no one is coming for you. If you don't save yourself, no one is coming to save you, right? So when you open an account, it's called the fixed bill. Fixed bills means I don't have access to it. Put an automation on that account. At the end of the month, the landlord goes straight to your account and pick their bills. At the end of the month, the car dealer goes straight to your account and pick their bills. You do not have access to that bill. And that account, do not get a debit card for it. Because so you'll not be tempted to swipe. Right? So when you receive your salary or your wages, what you do is you just move the portion of the fixed bill into this account and you leave it there because it is not your money. And for you to have peace, you don't need to touch it because it is not your money, right? So leave it that way. Now for the utility, because we believe utility would definitely, there's a fluctuation because it's not fixed, right? Like I told you, this month it's possible it's lower, it's higher, depending on your consumption. Also puts in money into that account for utility. So this is your second account now for utility. And what you're doing in that account is you're putting all your utility fund. You can now you can mark it up to say, okay, my utility, I've seen an average of $300 for my utility. I'm going to mark it up to $400 so that I'm sure that at least I can pick all my bills that come on utility. Now, your final accounts will now be your cash account. So, or you can decide to do two. You can do your utility and your fixed in one account, depending on what works for you. But I want you to have a separate account for that cash. And the reason why I wanted to have a separate account for the cash items is because you have the joy of spending it. But the day the money finishes in that cash account, you do what? You say, oh, okay, I'm a target today. I'm at Winners today. Unfortunately, I saw this very lovely sweater, but I don't have money to buy it. That's the first way you discipline yourself, right? So you have an account for that cash and you put in any other money into that cash account. So remember that we are doing 75% of our income. So if my fixed income and my utility have taken 70% of my income, what do? I only have 5% for my cash. So I know if my friend calls me, oh, let's go out on a restaurant, what do? The first thing I do is I look at my cash account and say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not able to afford it. And until then, when you begin to tell yourself the truth that, okay, Sifawu, you're not able to afford this now, you will never become financially free. Now, someone would say, what do you now do with the rest of the 25% of your income? That is where your savings and your investment comes in. The truth is, you need to save. If anyone tells you you do not need to save, the person does not love you, and you do not love yourself, right? So you need to save. So in savings, what you do is you can do 10% of your savings into savings, you can do 15% into savings. Just split it, the 25% that is left from your income. Put a part of it into savings. And what are you saving for? You're saving for long-term goals. You're saving for emergency funds. Emergency do not come on a regular basis, but the truth is, if there's an emergency, it can be devastating. And if you have funds that you can fall back on when there's an emergency, it helps you relieve the stress. But if there's an emergency and there's no fund, oh my God, the stress becomes double. So that is why you need to put money in your savings account, in a savings pool, right? Then the other part of the 25%, I don't know if you want to split it 15-10 or you want to do 12.5, 10.5. It depends on whatever works for you, right? You can the other part goes into your investment. The truth is, if you want financial freedom, you need to learn the act of investing. I know a lot of people say, oh my God, I don't want to invest in the market. What if the market crashes? What if the market does not crash? That is what I want you to keep thinking about. What if the market does not crash? And you do not need to invest in risky assets. They're assets that are tailored to your risk appetite. That is why when you're doing investing, you see they ask you a lot of questions just to know, okay, what is your risk appetite? I'm not going to be talking about investing today because I'm just talking about budgeting. Like, how do we do our budgeting in a simple and effective way, right? So you put the other part in your investment account, and there are a lot of investment that you can go ahead and do. But you can see with this, I don't need to come from the coffee store and say, oh my God, I spent $4 today. I need to put it on my app, and I'm so sad putting it in. Because what do? If I go to the coffee store, I feel like taking coffee, right? And I go there and I check my cash account and I say, oh my God, you do not have a dime there. I'll tell my appetite, I'm sorry, you can't afford it today. Then when you begin to do this, you begin to see that you become innovative, to say, okay, I'm only having 5% in my cash out of all my earnings. Number one, what do I do? Do I need to reduce my lifestyle? Like a lot of people live in houses they cannot afford. Do I need to change my house to be able to put more into my lifestyle, right? Do I need to change my car? Do I need to do something? Do I need to get a new job? Do I need to ask for an increase in my office? That is what budgeting can help you do. Because if you do not know where your money is going, like this month I already earned, let me say, okay, this month you earned $10,000, and you cannot account for the $10,000 to say, this $10,000 that I earned, it went to this place, this place, this place. Then you're just working for fun. Like, you're not helping yourself. And I know financial education was not taught to us. We're not taught financial education. It is nowhere in our syllabuses in school. But how do you become financially free? The rich understands all this principle. And so even now that everybody says, oh, financial education is not being taught in school, I begin to wonder, so why is it not in the law for them to include it in the curriculum? Because the rich will not want it to know it. That is why no one is coming for you, except you come for yourself, to tell yourself the truth that I need to wake up, I've been on slumber, I've been sleeping. I need to wake up to the fact that if I must get financial freedom, I need to start accounting for every penny that leaves my purse. I need to start accounting for it. And the best way to do it is by budgeting. Now, I've given you steps in which you don't need to go into like the apps to say, because I understand, I know the feeling to say, this is so boring. Like, this is so boring. How do I begin to type in the $2, the $5, the $10 I spent? But with this method, you've been able to conquer that because you splitted your bills to say, okay, 75% goes for my expense, right? 25% goes for my savings and for my investment. And this 75%, I know 50% it's for my fixed expense. I know I have 10% for me to say, okay, I love the sweater, I like to buy it, or I want to take this vacation, right? And if you begin to do this, you begin to see, you can now take it a step further. Maybe when you're very used to this, you can now take it a step further to say, okay, I even want to see where every penny is going, so that you know, okay, this is what I need to cut short, or if I need to get another job, if I need to do something to bring more income to myself. So I hope this video has helped you. I hope you've learned one or two things from me sharing this financial literacy with you. And you can just leave a comment to say, okay, this is what I learned, and if you would be doing it as well. So till I come your way the next time, I want you to remain blessed. Thank you so much.